Hey there friends, it's been a wild week. Cold snaps, fast growth, and a few surprises that I didn't see coming. One crop shot past even my fall garlic, while another one bounced back thanks to a simple change. I've got carrots under row cover, onions making a comeback, sweet potatoes finally waking up, and a sneak peek at the tomatoes, Mizuna, and more that are about to take over the garden. We'll talk about why starting too early doesn't always pay off, how nitrogen fixing actually works, which seedlings are thriving, and which ones aren't. There's a ton to cover today, so let's dig in. Bok Choy. I planted this Bok Choy back in early March and put the seedlings in deep into the soil using a dibber. At first, the leaves were yellowing, but now they've bounced back and are looking good. I'm growing two types this year. One of them is a new variety, new to me. It's taller and a long white stem. It's going to be perfect for eating like celery. This garden bed has about 2 inches of compost on top, plus I added some feather meal and given each plant a little sprinkle of blood meal. And that was when I first planted them. I'm also testing something out. I added a little extra blood meal to these 2 rows here to see if that makes any difference. The nitrogen from the first round is probably used up by now, though the feather meal is still breaking down slowly. I'm not totally sure if this second feeding will help, but let me know what you think will happen in the comments. Arugula. This is the first time I'm showing these arugula plants. Arugula used to be tricky for me, but once I started growing indoors and then transplanting them outside, things got easier. The area down here is full of volunteer plants that popped up from seeds dropped last fall. I had a wasabi arugula variety from Baker Creek here, and this one really did taste like wasabi. I say that because I tried their wasabi radish last year and wasn't impressed. It tasted like a radish, but wasabi colored. I won't be growing that again this year. Those arugula plants didn't make it through the winter, but they left behind a bunch of seeds that sprouted on their own in late March. I was able to harvest some of those, but most of them just fell around here. In addition to them starting here, I also started some indoors a few weeks ago. Arugula seeds are super tiny, so I usually drop 5 to 10 seeds in each cell using a 16 or 128 cell tray. Now, check out the color of these seedlings. That reddish pink tint isn't from a special variety. It's probably a stress reaction. It could be the wrong soil mix, too much water early on, or the kind of light that they were under. I've transplanted them into the patch here, creating 3 rows amongst the volunteer plants. Now, once they all start growing up and maturing, I'll thin them down to 3 rows, leaving the volunteer arugula in between the transplants. Tomatoes are going to be planted in this bed around mid-May, so that gives this arugula about 6 weeks to grow and give us a few harvests before the switch. Spinach. Later on, this bed will be home to tomatoes too, but for now, it's packed with spinach. As soon as the weather warms up, the spinach will start to bolt, which means it'll stop growing leaves and try to make seeds instead. That's why planting spinach in September is such a good idea. It gives the plant a long, cool growing season before it gets too warm in the spring and summer. Right now, I'm harvesting spinach every day and feeding several people with it. I'll have more spinach than I can use soon. I'll be freezing some and giving the rest away to friends and family. Normally, I'd let a few plants go to seed, but this is an F1 hybrid variety, so the seeds wouldn't grow into the same type of plant. Since I really like this one, I just plan on keep buying the seeds each year or every couple of years. The seeds tend to last a few years. This variety makes thick, dark, sweet, buttery leaves. I add azomite and green sand to the soil each year to boost the nutrients in the leaves. I also grow an heirloom spinach variety, which is fine, but honestly, when I'm picking for salad, I always reach for this hybrid. If you want deep green healthy leaves like this, try giving each plant a little extra nitrogen. I'll be adding about a teaspoon of blood meal, 1200, per plant today, kind of in strips like I did last time. Red Russian Kale. These plants are growing fast and they're really taking off. I've been picking the biggest 1 or 2 leaves from each plant, just like I do with the spinach. This variety has the same great taste in nutrition as regular kale, but the leaves are much more tender, especially when they're young, this size. You can eat them raw without needing to cook or massage them forever. If you let them grow, the leaves will get big, a little tougher too, similar to Siberian kale. Since kale is also a leafy crop, I'll be giving a boost of nitrogen this week to help them grow fast. This garlic has been the biggest surprise of the season. When I planted these cloves last fall, they looked awful. Soft, spotty, even kind of rotten. I was so unsure they'd survive that I ordered a second batch of hardneck garlic and planted them in late winter, once the ground thawed. But look at these things. Over 90% of them sprouted, and they're growing way faster than the ones that I planted in February. This isn't perfect science, but it definitely taught me something. Fall planted garlic works better, at least in my garden. The fall garlic bed got a thick 4-inch layer of compost for extra insulation, while the spring garlic only got 2 inches. Both beds were given feather meal and fishbone meal, and this week I'll be adding some blood meal to both as well for extra nitrogen. Garlic likes nitrogen before the solstice. If you're watching this in April, it's too late to plant garlic now, but make a note to plant it in October. You'll be glad that you did. Thyme and rosemary. This thyme plant made it through the winter like a champ, and it's starting to spread out. Pretty soon I'll need to trim it back so that it doesn't take over the whole bed. And when I do, I'll pull out a piece that already has roots and pot that in a 4-inch nursery pot for my indoor herb garden. I actually got this thyme from a department store last year, and I just planted it straight into the garden. I'm planning to do the same thing this year with oregano and rosemary. Green onions. These green onions were started from seed in late summer, and they made it through the winter just fine. I've been picking their fresh green tops pretty often. I actually had some for salad today. Usually the tallest, the biggest leaf on each plant. I'm not sure exactly what variety these are, but I know where they came from. Last spring, I bought some scallions at the grocery store and planted them whole. They grew, flowered, and made seed. I saved those seeds, planted them at the end of last summer, and now I've got a steady supply of green onions and even more seeds to keep growing them all year. Whether you're just starting out as a gardener or if you've been gardening for years, this is a fun and easy project. You get fresh green onion tops pretty much year round with very little work and low effort. Patterson onions. These onions are making me pretty happy right now. They've really turned a corner. They're greener, stronger, and getting bigger every day. They're still small, but I gave them a dose of organic fish fertilizer when I planted them, so I'm holding off on adding blood meal for now. This is my first time growing Patterson onions. I picked this variety because of how long it stores. A lot of growers say that they can harvest them in middle of summer and still be eating them the following spring. That's what I'm hoping for. This whole bed, onions, other crops, even the weeds, really shows how helpful row covers can be in early spring. In March and April, there's plenty of sunlight to support growth, but not a lot of warmth. Row covers made of fleece trap a bit of heat. They block cold winds and help plants make it through chilly nights. Using row covers is a cheap and simple way to level up your gardening. I highly recommend it. Peas. Last week, the peas I started back in February started to turn a pale green. Not the healthy, vibrant look I wanted. After I put down a row cover to help protect them from the cold, their color bounced right back. What's even more interesting is that the second batch of peas I planted has already caught up to the first, even though they were started much later. And it goes to show there's really no need to rush and start peas super early in the winter. And that goes true for a lot of plants. Peas are nitrogen fixers, which means you don't need to feed them with things like blood meal or feather meal. They work with helpful bacteria in the soil to pull nitrogen from the air and turn it into a form that they and nearby plants can actually use. Mustard greens and fava beans. These mustard greens are growing like crazy, faster than even my fall planted garlic. I've been picking them for salads and wraps. They've got a light wasabi flavor that I really like to accent my meals. But they've started crowding out my fava beans, so I've had to thin some of them out. From now on, I'll let the mustards grow only down the middle of the row, away from my main crops. Even though fava beans are nitrogen fixers, they still compete for things like sunlight, space, and nutrients, just like any other plant. You can actually see how its competition has affected one of my fava plants. It's struggling. The mustard had a head start and probably beat it to the available nitrogen. That makes me think that my fava beans aren't fixing nitrogen yet. And that's not unusual. Nitrogen-fixing plants need a special kind of bacteria to actually fix the nitrogen. Without that bacteria in the soil, nothing happens. Fava beans and peas share the same partner bacteria, but pole beans, the ones that climb, and clover need different ones. If you want to make sure that your garden has the right bacteria, you've got two options. You can buy the right type online and add it to your soil. This is called inoculating. We're not on 2 yet. 2, wait for it to show up on its own, which could take a while. Once these bacteria are in your soil, they usually stick around year after year, especially if your soil is healthy. The better your soil, the less often you'll need to re-inoculate. Okay, carrots. I planted this bed of carrots on March 31st, and I'm expecting to see them starting to sprout soon, any day now. Carrots can be a little tricky. They take a long time to germinate, and they need steady moisture the whole time. This year, I'm growing 3 types of carrots. Mokum, an early hybrid from Johnny's Seed Company, Kuroda, a classic, reliable carrot, and St. Valerie, which is super sweet. To help keep the soil moist and warm, I've covered the bed with landscape fabric. I'm checking it twice a day so that I can pull the cover off as soon as I see signs of germination. I can actually still feel the heat radiating up off of this, and it's been cloudy all day. Carrot seedlings kind of look like little blades of grass when they first come up. Just something to look for if you decide to do the same thing. If you haven't planted carrots yet, don't worry. There's still plenty of time. You can sow carrots anytime from late March all the way through early August. Just keep in mind that carrots are biennials, so they won't go to seed until they've been through the winter. But some varieties, like black carrots, can bolt early if planted too soon. If you're growing those, it's best to wait until spring starts warming up, maybe even into the summer to start planting those. If you're enjoying the video, give it a like and subscribe if you're new. It helps the channel grow and encourages me to keep making these videos, especially for you. I started these sweet potatoes by half burying them sideways in a tote filled with damp peat moss. You could use coconut cork too. For about 4 weeks, nothing really happened. And that's probably because I had them sitting in a cool basement. Last week, I added a seedling heating mat under the tote and some insulation to help warm things up. On sunny days, I also bring the tote outside to let the sun warm them up naturally. That combo seems to be working. I'm starting to see strong root growth, which is usually the first sign that the little sprouts that we plant, are on their way. If you're interested in growing sweet potatoes and you want some slips, drop a comment. I'd be happy to send some your way once they're ready. If you'd like to support the garden and get something back, channel members are getting seeds and sweet potato slips grown right here in this soil. Check the comments for more info on how to join. Seedlings. Most of my seedlings are doing all right. I've been itching to get them in the ground, but I waited for a cold snap to pass, and now that it has, it's go time. I'll be planting them out across the garden this week. I created a little bit of a schematic for where everything goes. Sometimes it can get a little overwhelming where you think, I have so many plants and no space. But you can always make it fit. Just get them a little closer together. Some of them look like they're showing nutrient deficiency, maybe from bottom watering. Watering from below might be pulling nutrients out of the soil. I'm not totally sure, but based on past experience, I know they'll perk up once they're in the ground. And that's exactly what I'm going to be doing with my first round of Bok Choy. We saw those a little while ago. Potatoes. When I first started planting potatoes, I had no idea what I was doing, and every single one of them failed. Sometimes the plants would be a foot high and then die. The big mistake? I was using inorganic store-bought potatoes. Now, let's talk about chits. The little sprouts that form before planting. Your chits should not look like this. If you see other gardeners planting potatoes that look like this, I've seen it, and it makes me cringe. Now, what about these chits? Still not ideal, but they're better than the first. This happens when seed potatoes sit too long in the dark. The growth gets long, pale, and fragile. Think of it like an astronaut who's been in space too long. They get weak and wobbly once they return to Earth. Here's what healthy sprouts should look like. Or this. It doesn't matter if it's a red, gold, or russet. If your seed potatoes look like this, you're one step closer to the coveted green thumb. This week, I picked up some main crop russet potatoes from the store and placed them in the chitter to start sprouting. They're just getting started, but my second early Yukon Gold are fully chitted and were planted a couple of days ago. I planted them near the first earlies. And soon it'll be time for russets. Everything's lining up nicely. Mizuna. I wanted to get these Mizuna plants in the ground last week, but the weather had other plans. It's been cloudy, cold, and wet all week, and it looks like that's going to continue into next week. Last night, we even had a cold snap and the temperature dropped to 27. That's a risky territory for a lot of frost-hardy plants, especially when they're still young. To protect the plants I already had outside, I used row covers and fleece to trap some of the warmth and keep the wind off them. That extra insulation makes a big difference when temps drop that low, especially for young plants. It's one of the easiest ways to give your plants a fighting chance in early spring. I've been holding off on transplanting to make space indoors, but honestly, I think now is still a great time to get them outside. There's no immediate danger to these plants, and they'll benefit from being in the garden. Since Mizuna is a leafy green, I'll be feeding it with a bit of blood meal to give it that nitrogen boost that leafy greens love so much. Thanks for spending some time in the garden with me today. If you haven't seen the earlier updates, be sure to check those out. The week-by-week update playlist to catch up on everything that's been happening this season. Things happen fast in the garden, especially in the spring. And if you don't want to miss any updates in the future, make sure to subscribe and have post notifications turned on. That way, you'll know exactly when the next one airs.